chatting about doing a live and talking about like the best bits of 2019. And we came up with a list of questions, and we're adding one more at the end for like wishes. So feel free to like throw your comments in. I will be like keeping an eye on comments because it does appear to be working. So that's all good stuff. How's everybody doing? Did everyone have a good solstice? How was your solstice, Molly?
It was really lovely. I had a very relaxed solstice and general merry-making season, and had a really fun New Year's. We had here for a dinner party. It was a good time. How about you? How was your solstice?
Well, I was here in Norway, and hubby-to-be bought champagne, which is always nice. And we had rack of lamb, and it was very different to what I'm used to. So it was really interesting because the food was quite different to what I'm used to in the UK. And it was nice. It was nice to just, relax. I was very relaxed. It was very like, because I'm in northern Norway and it's very, very dark, very, very early. Like 2 p.m. it's like black. So it's a really interesting experience. But like, it was interesting to have a winter solstice where you can actually feel that kind of like lack of light, because it's not like that in the UK. You're like, we're celebrating the return of the light, which hasn't really left. But in Norway, you're like, sitting in the dark. Like, yeah, I get it. I get the solstice in Norway. It's awesome. Oh,
a neat experience, though, just a totally different way.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's cool.
Got some people saying hello, everybody. Hello in the comments. How are you doing?
Hi, everybody.
Michael Johnson said he had a good solstice and he was in the process of leaving a toxic job. So there you go. Brand new beginnings, fresh starts, all that good stuff.
Good work for the new year. Whoop, whoop.
Okay, cool. So our first question that we have devised, I'm just going to put it to Molly first, just why not? So, favorite books or literature or soul-inspiring wordy goodness of 2019?
Okay, some favorites.
Mm-hmm.
So I tried hard, actually not to buy new books this year, because I have the ooh shiny complex that anytime I find something slightly interesting, I drop whatever I'm reading onto a new book. So I tried to focus here on finishing things that were already in the library, or things I could get from the library. So a few of my favorites this year were Rob Bresney's Pronoia, and I actually have it on my coffee table here because the title's really long, but it's The Revised and Expanded Pronoia, the Antidote for Paranoia, How the Whole World is Conspiring to Shower You with Blessings. It's a hysterical book. I really enjoyed it.
Sounds amazing.
He writes the Free Will Astrology column. So I'm sure actually probably a lot of people here are familiar with Rob Bresney. Some of my others were On Becoming the Alchemist by Catherine McEwen. I'm pretty sure that's how you say her name. Correct me if I'm but it's a really beefy book that goes through the spiritual nature of the alchemical process, and it's a book that I actually ended up having to read twice to really juice it. It's a dense read, but I highly recommend it for anybody who's interested in doing any kind of magic. It has a lot of real world application, and let's see what else. I also really liked, it's based on a book, which I need to check out the book, but I was recently gifted the Literary Witches Oracle. Have you seen this?
Yes. Yeah.
It's very cool, and I'm having a ton of playing with that. So I would put that on my favorites for the wish list this year. Ooh, also just thought of one. Mitch Horowitz. If anybody knows Mitch Horowitz, I read both The Miracle Club and The Occult History of America. Super fun. Would highly recommend both. I actually ended up getting a couple of copies of Occult America for some friends this year. What's on your list?
Well, this year was a big year for me in getting back the books that I had lost. So I wasn't buying too many new ones. I'm just going to check the name of the lady of the book that I did get, what her real name is, because I know her as one thing. I just realized that that's not really helpful if people want to buy the book. No, I didn't. I didn't want Sheds. I really didn't want Sheds. Right. Okay. So the book that I did get this year was The She Book by Tanya Markle, which is actually a poetry compendium. And I love her on Facebook. I love her work and her written stuff. It's always really spot on. It's really beautiful. It's really evocative. And the She Book works beautifully for stitchomancy too. Like you just open a page for the day and take in what the words are there. That was really beautiful. And you can find, I think she might be Tanya Markle actually now on Facebook, but I'm pretty sure she's also, is it Thug Unicorn? Chris would know.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I love her book, and she's actually coming out with a second one soon. So I'm like waiting, I'm like pouncing on it. And I rebought Sharon Blackie's Women Who Rise Rooted, which is one of my absolute favorite books. And I actually got her second book, which is, I should remember because it's like Foxfire and Wolfskin or something, and it's all about shapeshifting. Only a little bit way through it, but I absolutely adore her work. When Women Rise Rooted always fills me with a sense of deep divine connection to the stories of women, which has been a major theme for me in 2019, which is reconnecting to the lost stories or the lost songs of women in particular. And obviously that's a very personal thing for me, being a woman, but it has really connected me to a sense of self in a way which is really difficult to put into words. But you're reading about the women of the wells and things like this in When Women Rise Rooted, and it kind of feels like a really natural companion to Women Who Run with the Wolves. So if you really like that book with all the stories of women and sort of being told through the ancestry, I think you'll really like the other one. So those were my major ones for the year, because I was just trying to get things back.
I'm gonna have to check that one out. When you were talking about stitchomancy and bibliomancy, like Women Who Run with the Wolves is one of those books for me. So that sounds compelling. I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah, it's really lovely, and there's some Morrigan bits in it too, which I wasn't expecting, because you don't usually find just Morrigan like boop, in the middle of a book which is not about the Morrigan. That's really unusual. So, and she talks about the Cave of Cats and rebirth and things as well. I was like, yes, hello.
Here for it.
So yeah, so did anyone else have some really good books in the comment section? Anybody have some really good reads? Blog posts maybe? There's been lots of really juicy blog posts this year. I tried to think of ones that really left an impression in a really good way, rather than the ones that I was like, no. Because I can remember the ones where I'm like, no, for some reason. I share them whenever I really think, and now I'm looking back and I can't think. My brain's gone blank. So, did anyone else have any suggestions? Any book suggestions? Or I can just move on. People are being quiet. That's unusual.
That's all right.
Cool. So our second question was stuff that we made that we're super duper proud of this year.
You go first, honey. You go first.
So I managed to, in a rush, not bring it in the room with me. Good going. I was trying to get technology to work, guys. It's been a day. And so obviously Songs of Shades 3 is the big work of 2019. And that has Molly's gorgeous cover art on it that I color tweak every time. And I really, really, really loved Songs of Shades 3 because it was a Babe edition, basically. There was a whole lot of Babe in Songs of Shades 3. And there was a whole lot of like death working and shadow workings and things of that. And it is the third one, and I'm really super duper proud of it. And it is self-published, self-written. Molly did the art, as I said, but other than that, it's me being like, hi. And I dedicated it to the community this time, like the entire community, and that just felt really powerful for me. We'll get into that with big lessons in a bit for 2019, but I really did want to honor the community and everything the community had given to me to make my 2019 possible, basically. And shape-shifted it into something gorgeous. So I was really, really proud of that. And then Stereotypies in general, I'm always very proud of it, and I get behind all the products and things. I did have a lovely moment this year where Bizwitch isn't out yet. Bizwitch is going to be out very, very soon. And that is a spell set designed around the idea of raising your vibration first and getting your energy in the right place first so that you can be more proactive, that you're more open, you're more self-affirming. So if you're in the right energy space, and then other, the business will come from that. And it then has a mixture of, business goodness in there too. And the person that I made it for originally made £2,000 in the first month of using it. So I was having one of those moments about Bizwitch. And then the final thing I think is the Bone and Dirt course has been doing really well this year. I had finished it for creation towards the end of 2018, but I really started promoting it this year, really kind of like getting it into people's attention. I've had some really lovely feedback from quite a few people who are like, I can't believe there's so much stuff in here. And I'm like, there goes. There you go. All the content, have it all. But yeah, I've been really proud of how well that's been doing this year and how people have been responding to it, which is great. People have found it helpful. People have said that it has started to change the way they look at certain goddesses as well as that within themselves, which was really lovely. And I was like, yes, that's the point. Good. Yay! Woohoo! So yeah, those are three things that I'm really proud of this year. And then over to Molly. What are you really proud of this year, Molly?
What I made, things well, it was just kind of fun. I sat down and did some rough math towards the end of December, and with making work and oracle decks and enchanted snail mail for people this year, not including my own work, it ended up being over 2,500 individual pieces of artwork. So,
that's Earth Signs for you right there.
That was nuts, and it was really fun. And I think for me, might be a tie for two things. I started offering handmade, hand-painted oracle decks with hand-bound books to patrons, and I've been wanting to make an oracle deck for a very long time, and my patron moon babies really encouraged me to go there and push me over the finish line on that. So I'm pleased with the way it turned out, and I hope it's really powerful for the people who are using it. And I loved that whole process. That was a ton of fun. And Rainbowmancy came out late this year, but it's a class, it's a color magic class that I've been wanting to make for years, and the time was finally right. And our first group was particularly fun, and they blew me away with everything that they made and the discussion in the group. So I'm excited to run that class again.
No. Any plans to release the Oracle deck to the public en masse, or is that like further down the line?
Maybe. I talked about this with my patrons, and one of the things that I liked about this idea was that it is an art magic object, that it's something that is handmade from beginning to end, that someone actually painted this and glued this together for you and sewed it for you. And I think I love that about it. So it's a possibility, but not something I've thought about mass producing.
I'm just assuming that would be somebody's question. I probably jumped on somebody's question. Comments again. People still there. Oh, we have a book. We have some book recommendations.
Ooh,
so Michael Johnson says Evelyn Ristic's book on Norse shamanism was one that had really added to his practice. And Monica Steger says Herbal Rituals by Judith Berger. I loved it. So there we go. There's two more book recommendations. So
thanks for sharing, guys.
Keep the questions coming. Come on, everybody. So, music that has made a soulful impact on us this year. And it's your turn to go first.
Okay. I made a little list. Let's see here. I know you and I may share this one, but Aurora put out like 2 albums this year.
Mm-hmm.
Like 2 sneaky secret albums that dropped at like the same time, which was crazy. And I think that they are really, they're both dreamy and very poignant. I love using Aurora's music when I'm making or doing readings for people. I like to have that on while I'm writing and doing that work, and dancing around to it. So Aurora would be on my list for this year. I just found out about this band. They're not new, but they're new to me. But Tassiomancy, if anybody has ever heard them, they're phenomenal. They make really sort of like spooky alternative folk music, I guess would be the best way to describe that. Really enjoying Tassiomancy, and they have tons of super witchy themes and supernatural themes. Let's see, who else? Laura Mavula. I'm never sure how to say her last name, but she's fantastic. I've included her on plenty of playlists that I put on the blog, magical playlists on the blog. I find her to be just explosive and super powerful, and it's music I use to get pumped up, so I'm loving her. And a new to me, I wrote down her name because I never say it correctly, and Anna Van Hauswolf. She is terrifying in the best way. She is absolutely haunting, deeply emotional, sort of ambient landscapey. It's been eaten up. So, what
I've
about
not heard of her. I've not heard of her. I shall have to check her out.
She, it is for you.
Okay.
Like,
I know what I'm doing later.
I could be wrong. I don't want to give incorrect information, but somebody very close to her, I'm not sure if it's a relative, but somebody very close to her is also a filmmaker, like a really well-known filmmaker. And so the videos that accompany the songs are also very spooky and not disturbing in a violent way, but they're
macabre and evocative and that all that sort of
very evocative. They're cinematic and beautiful, and so if you're into the video and the music, I would check her out.
Cool.
That's my short list.
So new to me this year, it's not new to the world or anything, but new to me this year. So I discovered the band, and it's spelled like Paris with a V instead of an A. So I have no idea how you pronounce it. And I heard one of their songs late this year, and I listened to it on repeat because I was like, this is amazing. And it really picks apart themes which you don't often hear sung about. So one of their songs is talking about how she feels like a dead centerfold, like she's just there to be observed, and it doesn't matter who she is on the inside. And it sounds more gothic than the music sounds, but it's this really interesting mix where it's not too gothic sounding, and then you listen to the words and you're like, whoo, yes. So that was really cool. I'm going to put Lizzo on this list for this year because I think she's inspiring in an insane way. So I hadn't really heard of her before, and obviously she blew up even more this year. And then I heard her talking about her story, about how 10 years ago she was living in her car and had just lost her father, and she went through all of this to get where she is today. And then she's also bringing all of this kind of attitude of it really doesn't matter what people think of you. And Lizzo really helped me with that in a lot of ways. I'm on a self-love journey and a self-discovery journey, and have been for a while. And I am trying to get in shape too. So it was interesting to have a woman who was so unabashedly, completely herself, refused to apologize for it. And you'd see this massive swing of reactions of people, and it was just fascinating. And she's still there doing exactly what she wants to do, right at the center of it. So she's become a little bit of a role model for me. I think she's incredible. And then I've been exposed to a whole lot of metal this year because of the Viking, which I hadn't before. Although I did discover Heilung by myself, and I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with them. I want to see them live, and I can't honestly say I felt that way about a band for a very long time. Like, I need to see this band live. And Laura Dallaghan went to see them live, and she said it was like a ritual experience. It was like out of this world, and I was like, I must go. This is a goal for the next year. I must go. It's so good. And then in the metal, like Brothers of Metal, and they have these cool songs, and one of them is Yggdrasil, and I just like sing along in the shower now. I can't remember half of the bands that he listens to. I know I like some of it. Some of it, you know, is a bit screamy for me, but like some of it's great. Like if I can understand like half of it, I'm good. So you do start to understand quite a bit of it though, like once you listen to it, and some of it's really good. And I can't remember half the names, but I know I like Brothers of Metal. And I keep, if someone else shares it, one of the ones that I like, I'm like, that's one of the ones I like that I can never remember the name of. So yeah, I have been learning all about metal this year, and it's all the Vikings' fault. So in fairness though, he now drinks coffee, which is my fault, and well, he's discovering all sorts of foods that he didn't realize he liked before. So
a blending
it works both ways. Yeah. Off story, I was like, would you like an omelette, honey? And because I can make really quite good omelets. Like my sister used to be obsessed with them, and I was just like, would you like an omelette? Yeah, I shouldn't have done that, because I've made omelets every single day since for breakfast in various flavors. So yeah, so that's fun. But yeah, I think that's it for music. Was that it for music? Was that it for my music choices? Yes, I think so. So other witches that have rocked our world in 2019. Wow, it's my turn to go first as well. No, this bit made me laugh because I was like, favorite people, put people in a box. Yes, people. And it's always feels a bit creepy to me when I do this. So obviously Molly, who's right here right now. Molly's one of my favorite people in the whole wide world, and it would seem rude not to include Molly right at the beginning.
Thank you.
No, but you are. Molly's been with me in private as well throughout the year, and that's as much as I'll say about that because it's private, you know. But the people that have been supportive in my private life have made a massive, huge difference to me. Chris is in the chat, so everybody knows about Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Say something, wench. Honestly, you can't just join and say nothing. And Kellyanne Maddox, as always, she's one of my big loves on YouTube, and she has always been one of my favorites, and to listen to her is just beautiful. And honestly, it's been a bit of a weird year for it because a lot of people have been calming down on YouTube. So it feels like you don't see as much of people on YouTube and hear about as much of their life anymore, so it's been really strange for that. And it's really been for me about people that I've been don't you reply to me as Starry-Eyed Supplies? My goodness, Chris, that's just weird. Chris is an admin, everyone now knows. And so for me, it's been people in my private life. So I've met people in real life. So I met Bliss, who is one of the priestesses from Glastonbury and lives nearby. And she's been a massive influence for me this year. And she runs the Red Tent that I've been attending, which more about that later in questions. And, you know, she's been a wonderful influence. And Maura, who has stood by me for a very long time, and she's a private witchy that, again, it's been very much in the realm of the private sphere for me in 2019 for one reason or another. And there's a ton of people that I can say thank you to for their support in the community as well. So much love to so many people this year, but those are the big names that I can think of off the cuff. I don't think I've forgotten anybody. If I have, I'm sorry. My memory is like a sieve. So yeah.
It's hard. Like, it's hard when people ask you about that. Like, who are your favorite, creators or people? And it's like, oh my gosh,
I don't want to forget people because that's the worst bit. And you're like, oh no, this person supported me so much. And then my brain just.
I know. I feel terrible about that. But off the top of my head, I would have to say people whose work I'm really enjoying and have really enjoyed working with and talking to. Jessie Huntenberg. She's a really, really talented tarot reader and magic teacher, and her writing is just so sharp and clear and wise and scorpionic. I love her. And her Instagram is really fun to follow as well. And I have to always include Joanna DeVoe, the kick-ass witch of the Hippie Witch podcast. And it's been really fun to watch her work this year. The podcast has just like exploded and all of the things that she's willing to embrace. And I feel like it's getting weirder, and I love that. In a really good way. And she's also this year really just gone on this like intense journey of writing a novel, and that's been really fun to follow through the podcast and through Instagram as well, following her work.
See, I can't believe I forgot Joanna. Now I'm kicking myself like, oh my god. Yes.
That's weird. It's a group love fest. I actually figured that there were people on your list that I would also mention. So yeah, it was. I'm really excited that Annie from Mirth and Reverence is back on YouTube making videos. I think there was almost could have been a several year hiatus, and that she is back and producing like crazy. And the videos, the quality of the discussion on her channel just like fills me up. It's like getting a big witchy mentor hug. It feels like the magic mentor you always wanted, and there she is. She's available for you on YouTube, and she just has a really eloquent and poetic, but still very down to earth and very usable approach to teaching. And I'm just so freaking excited that she's back.
I didn't know she was back. Now I'm gonna have to go check. Now I've got some videos to go see.
Yeah. I have to say myself included that have kind of pulled back from YouTube, not for any negative reason, just you make videos when you feel like you have things to say, and sometimes a story is told better in a blog post, or it's better as a class or a printable and not always a video. So I'm excited to see that she's back. She's one of the OG YouTube witches. She's back. Let me see. And I will finish up with April Shaley. I love April Shaley of, I believe it's April's Arcana now. It used to be April's Astrology. But she's a really just a beautiful, talented, also breaks it down and tells it like it is without being scary astrologer. She's a fearmonger astrologer, which I really appreciate, but she's not a sugarcoater. So I find her to be a really inspiring resource. So thanks for making videos, April.
Happy 2020, Benabel. By all means, hit me up and we can do some chat. By all means, I want to get back into doing much more chatting with people anyway, like interviews and stuff. It's kind of took a backseat in 2019 for me, just because it felt for me that 2019 was a little bit all over the place. It's just like there was a lot of healing, there was a lot of traveling, there was a lot of change. So it's kind of been one of those weird years for me where videos and interviews declined. And I noticed it. I know that this happened, and I don't want that to be the case in 2020. I'd rather talk to people. I would much rather talk to people in 2020 goal. So yeah, send me a message and we'll sort something out. That would be cool. I would like that a lot. So favorite moments of 2019. And Molly's got to go first.
My favorite moments from 2019 are travel related. I'd have to say number one was getting to visit the Hoh Rainforest in Olympic National Park. It's incredible. It's real life fern gully. It's been on my bucket list for years, so it was fantastic to finally get to go and not only see the rainforest but hike around the mountains and see the ocean on that side of the country. So that was phenomenal. Favorite moment. Another favorite moment is another travel moment. I'm going to Yosemite National Park and watching the sunrise from the top of a waterfall and kind of getting our John Muir on and really having some beautiful moments to commune with nature in some of the most beautiful places in the world. So that was fantastic. And getting to do it with my bunny, that was absolutely wonderful and nourishing. I think one of my other favorite things this year was not starting Grimoire Club, but the community that has come out of Grimoire Club for me. That's getting to be fed by so many other witchy artists has just been like total freak out, like squee dance for me this year. So I think those are my top moments. What are yours?
Awesome. Well, 2019 was the year that I flew by myself for the very first time. And I was terrified about the whole thing. So you've never seen a first flight that was more Virgo than this flight. Like every inch of it was like covered. I had notes. I had watched YouTube videos on the changeover, because the changeover is the bit that scared me the most, because it would be in Oslo. They all speak English, which I didn't know, to be honest. I wasn't 100% sure that that would be a thing, but they do. And to be honest, it's fine. And so I overcame that and came to Norway and met the Viking. So obviously that has been a massive life-changing favorite moment of 2019. There's been many with him. I obviously got engaged this year, so there's another one. I have never seen somebody talk around the idea of asking you to marry them so much in my life, but there you have it. So I was like, what are we talking about here? But like, we got there in the end. Norwegians are not very expressive with their emotions, as far as I can tell. Not all of them, obviously, but like, there's a closeness which is beyond Englishness, which is interesting. So that was obviously another wonderful moment for me. I also have, obviously seeing Norway and getting to experience Norway up here in the north has been incredible this year. And I also, more locally, I got to see wolves, live wolves for the first time. And the Animal Sanctuary also added bears and lynxes this year. So I got to see all of those in the local Animal Sanctuary, which was incredible. And I got to go to Glastonbury and go to the temple and meet real life witches there. And so that's been some, and I've been to the goddess temple there. I've had ritual sessions there. I've had healing sessions at the healing rooms and readings there too. And it felt really wonderful to step into a more physical world of witchcraft, because meeting up with people has always been something I've been massively hesitant to do, and so I sort of stepped into that in 2019. That was wonderful. Meeting Laura in person was wonderful. I've known her for many years, and then like actually getting a conversation, in person was great. And then I started red tent ceremonies, like I mentioned earlier, and those have been some of my favorite moments of 2019, because it's this beautiful, all red tents are different, it depends who runs them, but in ours it's quite open, and she's more open to who comes than some people are. So she's open to people transitioning and things like that. So there's a really wonderful, supportive community, especially with Bliss at the helm. And for me, it was this gorgeous, safe space of magic and of women like coming together and sharing their stories. And like some people, and they had, when I first got there, my first attempt was less than a month after I had been through this terrible event towards the end of 2018. And so it hadn't been long, and just everybody was just supportive. And other women share all their deepest stories, and they don't go any further than the door. And it's just this wonderful, it's almost like this secret witchy society vibe that is really empowering and really like, you feel connected, and that was really great. And then Songs of Shades 3 releasing was a big moment for me, because it felt like, yeah, that's a really wonderful moment for me too, like I mentioned earlier, so we won't go into that too much, but it definitely was one of those big moments for 2019. I think that's it. I think. Brain's gone to sleep. So I think that's it for no, I went to see Stonehenge. That was the other one. I got to visit Stonehenge for 2019 too. I knew there was one more, and that was really beautiful. That was like a really interesting experience, because I didn't realize it was a burial ground.
Yeah.
And it feels like a burial ground. Like I don't know what I was expecting from Stonehenge, but I wasn't expecting it to feel like a burial ground, and it did. It had that very, very solemn, very quiet, very reserved, very sacred and kind of respectful vibe, where everything's quite still, and that was surprising to me, but I really enjoyed it. It was beautiful. So yeah, there we go.
Lots of magical quests for you this year.
There's been a lot of travel for me this year, a lot of going places, a lot of like challenging boundaries and things like that. And I will say that it's also the year, this didn't happen the first time because I got a lift to Gatwick the first time, but I also actually made it from my front door to Norway by myself this year too. So I did every inch of the traveling as well. So it went from being driven to Gatwick and then figuring out flights to taxi and plane, bus, and then plane, and so on. So yeah. So I will say, Angela just said she wishes there was more community like that where I live. I will say the place where I live now is the only place where I have really felt that exists for me so far. But you can always start a community, and that's something you can do. And even if it has to be online, I still think that can be super enriching. It's just finding the right people you vibe with. So there you go. Are there any more comments that we've missed before we move on? Serena Slack says, I never upload to YouTube because I realize that unless I'm naturally fired up to talk about something, it feels like I'm forcing myself to produce content and it comes out half-baked. I know that feeling.
Read.
I know that feeling. I've pulled right back from YouTube this year. A lot is because I've been traveling back and forth. A lot is because a lot of my energy goes into Patreon and making Patreon content. I do want to get back on the videos and things, like I said, for 2020. It's one of my goals, but I can totally understand how you feel that way. Absolutely. Kat says, you both look amazing. Happy 2020. Thank you very much. And Diana says, I admire you for your public presence. It takes a level of courage I'm not quite at yet. I'm courageous in other ways, but I've yet to start a YouTube channel. I just started commenting in 2019. It's not for everybody. Like, I mean, that's the other thing. It's not for everyone. And to be honest, I would suggest Instagram Lives if you do decide to do videos. There is this weird thing on YouTube where people are not being seen as much, and that can be super discouraging for new channels where that could be a problem. So I would highly recommend Instagram Live to anybody who's getting started right now. Just a thought. Joey's ritual lives she was doing with Chris were amazing. I know. Tell Chris. I can do them by myself, but like Madam is busy AF right now. So, but yeah, I do really enjoy the ritual sessions live. I might do some more of those on Patreon actually, because I do enjoy those. They are fun. So, anybody want to share their favorite moment of 2019? By all means, do so. So, a part of our practice we implemented and enjoyed or thought was really helpful.
Ooh. Yeah. Are you first? I think you're first on this one.
Okay. So, a massive thing for me, I've talked about this before, but it really, really helps, right? Is thinking outside the box of personal practice. So I would bash my head against the wall about things like daily practice. And there's been a lot of talk about daily practice this year. It's been a massive topic this year compared to other years. And I'm always like, that exact face and noise. Because if I do something over and over and over and over and over again, I will rebel against it with every inch of my body. I've always been that way. I don't like it. I get bored. I'm more chaotic than that. I prefer to be more creative than that. So that kind of was like a blockage for me. Probably more self-imposed than anything, but it was still a blockage for me. So I was like, okay, so how do we operate with this idea of regularly doing something where it doesn't become like, must do this at this time and that time and this time? So I was just like playing in that area for me. So if I was going to do a meditation every day, for example, or something for the Morrigan every day, then I would do a meditation, but I would change up what I was doing. So one day I might have the stereotypical sitting on a lily pad, music on, like towards the Morrigan, you know, trying to tap into that vibe. Although the Morrigan's not really in that kind of vibe, but you know, still. And so another day it might be like sticking full on warrior music on and like doing warrior moves, and then like moving my body in particular ways that felt ritualistic. And then another day might be singing, and then or just yelling or calling or screaming or shout, voice work. And then another day, and I've started doing this a lot more because I've started exercising regularly. It's one of my big goals for going forward, is to get in shape. And I started that in November. So when I'm actually on the cross train at the gym, I can pick YouTube videos. So that means I can have more organic music in my ears. And I actually do this whole thing with the cross trainer where I visualize myself like running into battle and honoring the Morrigan that way. So it's like playing with the idea of what everybody thinks is a really good way of, you know, getting in the habit of spirituality, I guess is what a lot of people call it. But at the same time, not confining myself in such a way that prevents me from connecting. So that's been a major thing this year.
Creative, doable solution.
Yeah. Hashtag Virgo, creative, doable solutions. I need like an advert. Creative, doable solutions. So yeah, I'm actually going to be writing a mini course about it sometime this year, because I think, and I'm going to call it something like daily practice for people who hate daily practice, because I figure it can't just be me. Some people might be really great with repetition, and if you are, that's fantastic. Like, do whatever works for you. But for me, I'm like, it feels like the wall's closing in. It's really strange to me. I can't. It might be the under fire in my chart, who knows? But there is definitely that feeling for me. So I will be talking about that this year. And then on top of that, I have been practicing, what would you call it? I guess it's a mindful practice of positive reinforcement in areas that I know I struggle with in terms of like shadows and stuff. So this year I've been proactive. So if one of the big shadows that I suffer from is comparison shadows, and I think a lot of us probably suffer with it. We get brought up in an environment and a culture which is like comparing people all the time. There's definitely that who's doing best, who's doing this. We live, we work and operate on social media, which is how many numbers do you have versus how many numbers does someone else have, and all of that gets to me if I let it. Like it's like shadow, blah, 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 blah. It's not good. So I've been practicing mindful, positive reinforcement. So if something triggers it, like this woman is beautiful and I feel like a swamp thing and that shadow is triggered, then I am like, go compliment that woman. Because your first thought was that how beautiful she is in that moment. And she probably put a lot of effort into that, blah, blah, blah. And it's good to make people like feel uplifted. So, and then you've taken that and you've alchemized that into something better, rather than sitting in the I am a swamp thing shadow. And then I've also took that particular thing and made it so that the only person that I'm trying to compete with is myself. So if I go to the gym and I can compete with myself, literally. How many sit-ups did I do versus how many sit-ups did I do the next time? So I'm trying to like put that there. So if we can't completely get rid of that competitive vibe within ourselves, we can shift where the focus is, and just make ourselves better with it. And so that has been it's been a very spiritual thing for me this year.
That's powerful. Absolutely. That's shadow integration. Yeah.
Your turn.
Didn't want to cut you off. You already had some really good thoughts. So practices that we added to our own practices or used this year that we thought were super helpful. I re-implemented doing morning pages this year. And for people who might be unfamiliar with that, there's a book called The Artist's Way, and it's one of the foundational practices in that book. And the idea is that you write 3 pages of longhand stream of consciousness in the morning. And some days it feels like a chore, and some days some really interesting things come out of it. But I think as an artist, it's a really great tool, but also in terms of your witchcraft or your magical practice or your spiritual practice, however it is that you interpret that, you start to notice themes that come up for you again and again that you might not necessarily notice because you didn't have an arena to give them a voice in. It's writing that you do right away in the mornings. So writing down dreams has become easier and a more regular practice, and just having that thought makes it easier to remember them. And that's always really useful, I think, fertile ground for people who are interested in doing introspective or spiritual work. So morning pages, glad I implemented that, would highly recommend it for anybody who's interested in any kind of spiritual and or creative practice. And that is our next question.
Yes.
So, do you want to hit that one or what?
I can't remember who went first last time now. Okay, good. People can see us. Good.
Wish list part 2.
Actually, it's your turn to go first because I talked about the other thing first. Yes, so it's Molly's turn to go first.
So I think this will be a great kind of wrap up for this conversation. So most impactful lessons from 2019, I had two really big ones that I feel like specifically relate to the conversation about our practice. The first was play as a legitimate tool, as a legitimate method. That this idea, moving away from the idea that the only way that you can grow as a person or on a spiritual path or in your craft is through suffering as much as possible, depriving yourself of things as much as possible, sort of this like self-loathing disguised as self-development, and really using things that you enjoyed, particularly things you may have enjoyed as a kid, as methods to get in touch with your genius, to get in touch with your magic, to even potentially get in touch with deity or spirit, if that's something that you play as a legit spiritual method was a big one for me this year. And the second is really trying to think of a good way to kind of clearly summarize this one. The importance of your willingness to feel intense feelings. That intense feelings don't actually hurt you. We're scared of them, but the intense feelings don't actually hurt you. And that if you, and whether that be, and I'm not, I want to clarify here before anybody freaks out, I'm not talking about any kind of disorder, or if you're a person like me who has anxiety and is receiving assistance for that. I'm talking about like in your creative life, in your spiritual life, perhaps even in your like relationship life, that there are a lot of things that we want, but the only thing that's keeping us from getting there is not being willing to experience a feeling of awkwardness or like a feeling of judgment. And all that is a feeling. And so for me, that was a big lesson this year, is recognizing what's really an obstacle and what's just a feeling that feels like an obstacle. So I feel like that's a bit convoluted. I hope that makes sense, but that was a big meaningful lesson for me in 2000.
Yeah, I'll totally relate to that feeling. So it made total sense to me. Oh, 2019. Big lesson for me was, I think the best way of describing it is, if you really truly want something, anything to work, it requires continuous work. I think we get, or at least I get this idea, like if I just do this and this, then everything will be fine. And it's like, this year has been a big year of, you just keep having to add to it. You have to keep growing the things. You have to keep putting the effort in. At the same time, if it's with people, for example, make sure that there's a balance, that there's a nourishment, that if you're putting in the time and the effort and the energy, that they are too. And it's not going to be 50-50 all the time or anything. That's not possible. But make sure that if you're showing up and caring, then they're showing up and caring. But definitely it's been a year of, if you want something, then go for that thing, ask for that thing, work for that thing, keep working for that thing, and keep showing up and keep working for it. And it's actually something that's going to, I feel for me, it's going to be something that's going to blend into 2022, because that's definitely been part and parcel of a lot of work this year. And for example, like one of my partner's fears, because he never thought he was going to get married, right? So he had a shock meeting me. But one of his big fears was that, something that I actually share, which is, the complacency that happens in marriage, and then the passion dies, right? And that people are just together for the sake of it, rather than working at it all the time, rather than flirting with each other all the time, rather than engaging, rather than still chasing each other, rather than still going on dates. And I was like, no, that's totally necessary for me. If I'm going to marry someone, then that is totally necessary for me. And that's true with a relationship of self. Keep flirting with yourself, keep showing up for yourself, keep doing things for yourself. And it doesn't really matter what anybody else says about those things, because 2019 has also been a big judgment year of people like questioning me. And like, I've had people question whether I should buy makeup. I've had people question art that I've shared, all sorts of things that have no relevance to them. And the big lesson there for me is, if it's nourishing me, then, as my grandma would say, she'd had a gesture too, but we might get in trouble if I did that. Because I mean, I had a lot of grieving this year. I lost 2 family members, so there's definitely been in sort of live life and make life what you want it to be, while you have the opportunity.
That'll make you reassess your priorities. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's been a major lesson of 2019, as well as the one about women that I already went over that. So that's definitely like working on that shadow. So what's your big wish for 2020 then, Molly? And then we will round off.
Sounds good. So for anybody watching, whenever you are watching this, it is my wish for you for 2019 that you exercise your right to a magical life to the absolute fullest, that you get all of the things that you hope for and some of the things that you never even thought to ask for. So I think that'll be my wish for you and for me and for everybody watching.
For 2020, I hope everybody finds moments of peace, moments of fulfillment, moments of joy, and moments of strength to get through the bit that is not so great. Because it happens, it's the cycle of life. Sometimes we're on top, sometimes we're not. But no matter what, I hope you find resilience and joy in all things, and me too.
We're in this together.
We are. There's definitely, for me, been massive lessons of community, and I want to continue that forward and just say thank you to everybody. Again, the community has changed my life in 2019, and I was very, very low at the end of 2018, and 2019, community gave me my hope back, and I will not forget that. So thank you for everybody in the community. Thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up. Whenever you see this, whenever you show up, thank you for showing up. Have a very blessed 2020, everybody. Woo! Thank you to Molly. Yay! Thank you for joining me. Woo! So many blessings, guys, and we'll catch you very, very soon. Many blessings.
Bye-bye.